after the top 24, but finishing in the number 2 position now in this semifinal match, you're looking at 28-year-old power player George Branham III of Indianapolis. Ranking it into the pocket.
Branham, who is used to winning, hasn't been in the winner's circle for almost 3 years, kind of fighting a slump, but when he has an opportunity, he's tough. But Kelly Coffman is buoyed by a tremendous finish, surprisingly catching Del Ballard. Semifinal game.
Crossing over and leaving the 5-9.
What a superb finish in the 10th, Chris, and then all of a sudden he gets a chance to settle down and relax, and here's just a completely wild shot. He crosses over to the wrong side, leaves the 5-9 spare, and once again, this is a choppable spare for a right-hander. Kelly needs to throw it hard down the center.
So that sometimes nervous first frame is out of the way. Both marking, Branham with the strike, Kelly Coffman a spare.
Kelly Coffman attended the University of Kansas, studied commercial art, and does playground portraits for children all over for friends and in commercial centers. And he's picked up airbrush art and doing landscapes as a hobby. Quite a talented young man.
That one just by, like on its way to St. Louis or something.
Speaking of St. Louis, Jim Hart, quarterback for the Cardinals, who will soon be in the NFL Hall of Fame, I hope. Does he look like Kelly Coffman as you see the ball sliding by the head pin, or does Kelly Coffman look like Jim Hart?
Uh-oh.
That's an incompletion.
My advice.
Well, you pick it. He is such a nice, likable young man, but spares. He even came to me and he says, Bo, I only missed a couple of spares the first couple of days, but here he's missed 2 spares in 2 games in the championship round. And that's a Jim Hart look right there, isn't it?
Now Branham with a strike up, second frame. Wanted the ball, but left the 10-pin, the right lane. Last title for George was the 1987 AC Delco, Union City, California.
Good combination of power and accuracy. Steady push away. Look at the wrist position. Absolutely perfect. Strong pivot step, long slide. Chris, this man can really, really, once he starts believing in himself, be one of the real top players on the tour.
Oh. Oh, no. Oh.
Well, maybe we have to start over with bowling tips, Chris, on how to make single-pin spares, because that's inexcusable. Both these players, top players, and I realize they're a little bit nervous in the championship round, but they both miss easy spares.
In other words, we should practice single-pin spares.
I think you're right. In fact, a good vehicle is to shoot the single pin out of a full rack and then shoot the remaining pins up. Good practice method.
Left 4-7. Born in Detroit, lived in California, now bowling out of Indianapolis. Last year at the U.S. Open in Indianapolis, he finished 7th.
Ron Palumbi, our defending U.S. Open champion, which the tournament will open tomorrow. It's a 7-day tournament, so the players have a long week ahead of them.
And George, of course, will be one of them, hoping to win in now hometown of Indy.
Kelly Coffman started bowling at age 4. He said his first average was 17.
After an open, Kelly leaves the 3-pin. Seems awfully loose.
Well, Chris, you're right. You know what? It's actually the ball is loose. You look at his hand. It's got to be close to 80 degrees in Peoria today. As you see the ball just errantly going by almost the left side of the head pin, leaving a 3-pin. Plus perspiration, the whole deal with the pressure makes it very difficult to hold on that ball. You know, that's something you have to learn to play well in the championship round. And I think that's why they make rosin. So, Kelly, you should be reaching for that rosin bag right now.
See him trying to figure something out here. He figured it out against Del Ballard. closing with 4 in a row and winning by 1 pin over Dell, 213 to 212. We're in the semifinal game of the True Value Open. And Del Ballard faced that.
Well, that was the split that Del Ballard left to allow Kelly Coffman into the finals. What he has to do is get the ball over in this area, slide that 6 pin over into the 7.
So now it's the second open for Kelly Coffman. Goes against George Branham III. Semifinal will continue after this. You're looking at Dan Cotter's 2 key executives. On the left, Jerry Thompson, True Value Merchandise Manager, and Gary Coppinger, National Advertising Manager. And here is G. Raymond Becker, proprietor of Landmark, and I call him Mr. Peoria. He is the man that has helped spark this city. Okay, Bo.
Thank you, Chris. Del Ballard, you had to be surprised at Kelly Coffman coming back to win.
I was very surprised. It's my own fault. I wasn't aggressive in the 10th frame, and I cut it off. But I went for 9 in the 10th. I didn't go for the spare because he'd only hit the pocket a couple of shots, during the game. And so he threw him good, and you're right, I'm going for the Tums.
Very nice. The championship match, Amleto, you surprised the scores? Are you going to change tactic?
I'm going to try to play the same way I did this week, just a little slower to keep in place and make good shots and see what happens.
All the players have to make a little bit of a change, Chris, and we'll see what Amleto can do in the finals. We still have a semifinal to be decided. Back to you.
That we do, and George Branham, who had a 15-pin lead with a strike-up going into the 5th frame, has left the 2-4-5. Nicely done. And a lot of punctuation. Didn't baby that shot, did he? Okay, now Kelly Coffman at 240 pounds is up and has had 2 open frames, but he came back in his victory over Del Ballard. Here he is in the 5th. Okay, next on ABC's Wide World of Sports, top male gymnast competing for the all-around gold in the World Cup Gymnastics Championships. And you know what else? Live from California, the road to the Kentucky Derby continues with the Santa Anita Derby, and then this to be presented by John Deere Lawn Care Dealers, and then coverage of the Grand National Steeplechase from Aintree and Wide World. Oh, he nearly doubled, leaving the 7.
Struggling a little bit with the approach, and you know what it could be, Chris? This happened to me one other time. Is perspiration may have fallen off somebody's forehead onto the approach. It happened to me in the Masters in 1980, and that's exactly, I'll bet, what happened. Now, it's his job to clear that approach.
Oh, sticking again and nearly blowing that shot.
Well, here's what they can do. They can turn to tournament director Johnny Campos and ask that the approach be cleaned off or at least rubbed off with some steel wool or something, Chris. But it's a player's responsibility, especially when you can't see any marks on the approach.
Okay. All right, a strike in the 6th for the leader, George Branham. We asked George what influence his family has had on his bowling career.
Well, my dad started me off in bowling when I was about 6 years old. He basically taught me the fundamentals. And around 15, I won Southern California Junior Bowler of the Year. And I stayed in the juniors until I was 21, and I decided to become a professional bowler.
Right now, he has a 15-pin lead, can make it 25.
2 titles for George, A.C. Dalco, and the Brunswick Memorial World Open in 1986. We'll be back.
What do I do for a living?
Next Saturday on ABC Sports.
Good action while we were away, running behind our time schedule. A double by Kelly Coffman, the comeback kid. Now here in the 8th frame with a double up. George Branham to cover 4 pin. Post-match, though, here we go again.
You're right, Chris. And we'll go back to the problem with both players are having on the left lane, lane 37 on the approach. Now, if indeed it's perspiration, they can go up and wipe it off, straighten out the approach. They cannot put anything down or apply it to the approach. So what you have to do is watch where they're standing and see if they make any adjustment. George is sliding right in this area, and that's where he's having trouble. Now, here's his strike line, and this up here, then a big swing out. But watch his footwork on the approach.
I tell you, luck has a lot to do in every sport.
Well, you're right. The 5-pin went flying in front of the 7. Watch the head pin will come back across and actually interfere with it. Here goes the head pin to the sideboard. Come back, and it bushwhacks the 5-pin before it could get to the 7. But Branham has the lead. Right now, it's just 13 pins, 9th frame.
And here in bowling, that luck factor is so graphically displayed by our technicians, our great cameramen. And, of course, Carol Letty, our producer, and Larry Camera director, calling the shots.
Kelly Coffman, big hit. He can cut the lead to 3 pins, 9th frame.
Look at that. I bet he studied for exams at the last minute.
You're right. He needs a late wake-up call, and he's giving George Branham the message right now. Coffman is using 2 different bowling balls. He's using 1 ball on the right lane, 1 ball on the left lane, using the full approach. He can now take the lead for the first time in the match, 10th frame.
Remember, he won over Del Ballard, 213 to 212, closing with 4. Here he is again.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, George Branham saying the same thing Ballard said. I had this guy on the ropes, he was struggling, and all of a sudden he can throw a strike and shut me out. Right now, Kelly Coffman on the verge of bowling for the title if he can strike right here.
Wow.
Then that leaves a single pin spare. He'll finish with 202. And right now, George Branham must throw 2 strikes and 7 to win the match. He's studying the scoreboard.
Grand prize here in the True Value Open is $39,000.
Branham has been fairly successful on the right-hand lane. He's had a 10-pin in the 2nd frame, striking a 4-6 and a 4-pin, but he needs 2 strikes right now to go to the final match.
Oh!
Leaving disastrous 5-7 bow.
Well, he was forced to play the deep inside line, Chris, and he just didn't get the pin action. Kelly Coffman is going into the final against Amleto Monicelli for $39,000.
Found the new comeback player on the tour, Kelly Coffman, who shot a 202, and he has recorded his 2nd victory. Now goes against another great champion in the final, Amleto Monicelli. Pro Bowler Show will return after this message and a word from our